What happens when women are empowered with financial knowledge, community, and resources tailored just for them? Today, we're speaking with two of the women behind one of the most impactful nonprofits doing just that, Savvy Ladies. Whether you're navigating retirement, a divorce, if you're just getting started with investing, this conversation will inspire you to take the next steps towards confidence and financial clarity. Welcome to the next episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast, where we want to educate and empower women to live your retirement on your terms. I'm your host, Eric Blake. Today's episode is very special. We're going to be shining a light on the incredible organization making a difference in thousands of women's lives across the country, Savvy Ladies. I've had the privilege of serving as a volunteer financial coach for Savvy Ladies for almost 3 years now, and actually just had the chance to join them for their first ever volunteer summit as a panelist in New York City on April 28th and 29th. Joining me today are Judy Herbst, Executive Director, and Lisa Zeiderman, Board Chair of Savvy Ladies. We're going to be diving into the mission behind Savvy Ladies, the resources that they offer, and how women can take advantage of their support and even give back to help other women. Judy and Lisa, welcome to the Simply Retirement Podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eric. We're delighted to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to have you on here. I'm grateful for my time serving as a volunteer coach with Savvy Ladies. And I just want to start and just get an overview from Lisa. We'll start with you, if you don't mind, just looking at what Savvy Ladies is all about, how it started, where did all this come from?
Savvy Ladies started with its founder, Stacey Francis, and actually her husband, who we nominated as a male ally a few years ago and celebrated everything that he had done to help Stacey. Basically, Stacey started it as a love letter to her grandmother, and her grandmother had been in a very tumultuous, abusive relationship with her grandfather, unfortunately, and part of the reason that she stayed in, or maybe perhaps most of the reason that she stayed in what was an abusive relationship, is that although there was money available, it wasn't available to her. She didn't have control of the finances, and she didn't really have a window into how to get control of the finances. And so, unfortunately for her and for Stacey and the other family members, it unfortunately led to her death. And it is a very sad story, but it is also a story that is so inspiring to so many women, because had she actually had control and the knowledge and had an organization perhaps like Savvy Ladies to help empower her and educate her about her finances, she could have reached out to different sources for help and taken control and maybe left that relationship. And so that was the reason that Savvy Ladies was actually first born. And here we are over 2 decades later, and we are helping about 3,000 women a year to take control of their finances and empower themselves through education and financial education.
Awesome. And just out of curiosity, how long have you been involved? What's been your relationship?
It's such a great question. So I think I started my involvement around 2017. I never quite remember because we had that COVID era going on. But I started around 2017. I had met Stacey and I fell in love with the organization. I'm a matrimonial attorney. And so women so often come to me and they really don't have the knowledge or the control of their finances. And I felt that women really need to be empowered. And this became a very strong passion of mine. I'm the woman who wants the spreadsheet like every morning and who goes on to my, accounts every day, right? But most women, or a lot of women certainly don't do that. And some are dependent upon partners or spouses to give them the information. And when that information stops flowing to them, that becomes a real issue for them. And if they don't have that access and that knowledge, they really are in a less than positive situation for sure.
And Judy, as far as executive director, how long have you been part of the organization?
I joined the organization in 2021. So it was my COVID pivot. And I really thank Lisa and Stacey and the board for believing in me. My background is not financial. My background is marketing and PR as a brand strategist. I had been with a digital startup, so I knew the value and the importance of outreach and building awareness of a brand. And I too fell in love with Savvy Ladies I was with a for-profit marketplace and reached out to Savvy Ladies to sponsor them because I too loved the mission and loved empowering women. And for me, I've always worked since I got out. I worked through college. I worked post-college to pay off those loans, and I continued working throughout having my children. So the value of working, I think, is so important to translate that to women, because yes, the women that are coming to the Savvy Ladies helpline to use the Savvy Ladies resources are educated women, but they gave up going their job to take care of a family. Right. And in that, they then abdicated some of the responsibilities, and women are very good at savings. And so they would manage maybe the household budget, and the budget, for the activities and plan the trip, but they were not aware of the investments and sort of the future strategies. And they would leave that to a spouse or a partner. So, I was thrilled to join Savvy Ladies and really help elevate the awareness of the brand. And in so doing, it was using the digital technology, which Savvy Ladies was not using at the time. So they always had a helpline, which is the heart and soul of Savvy Ladies. And Lisa, I remember telling you, when speaking to you, interviewing with you, for the role, because you reached out to me, which was really just such a blessing, was that it's the best kept secret, and Savvy Ladies shouldn't be a secret. It has this special, unique quality of a helpline. Every woman should know about this. We need to tell more and more people. So basically, we created a marketplace and took it to a marketplace platform. We're using Salesforce Experience Cloud, and we pitched our first grant to the NASDAQ Foundation to leverage technology because women were using their phones. We wanted to reach all women. We wanted to make getting financial knowledge, education, that guidance, connecting to you, Eric, as a coach, easy and accessible. And that was our mission. And so we launched the Savvy Ladies app, and we launched that after we received the grant. It went live March 2023. And since then, it's been two plus years with the app, and we've now surpassed 5,000. Actually, we're at 5,398 women that we have now connected with that have submitted their questions to the helpline. And Eric, we're just so thrilled that you've been with us since that journey of the app, because that shows the expansion of Savvy Ladies. And I like to use the word this year, propel. We continue to propel Savvy Ladies forward, both in growing our volunteer community and also growing the women that we can build trust with. So the women can feel comfortable coming to Savvy Ladies for a free session and not be sold anything. And this is sort of the conversation we spoke about at our summit, is building that trust, having that empathy. So the women coming to us feel that they are listened to, which is really important.
Well, I think one of the things, I don't know if Lisa, if you've experienced this in the legal world, but I find it interesting that you brought up that you were outside of the financial services space before you joined Savvy Ladies. And I think it sometimes can be really critical to have a set of eyes that aren't used to the same old stuff, to take another look at things. Is there a different way we can be doing it? Take the experience and knowledge from other industries and bring it to the financial services world, and just open up a whole new world to reaching people and touching people's lives.
So I think that that's correct, Eric. And I think that technology, this whole field of technology, has become so important to us. We have a technology committee at Savvy Ladies, and that is really made us, I think, unique, because it has taken our special sauce, which is our helpline, and it has expanded it across the country. We were always nationwide, but in this way, I think people can utilize their phones, as Judy was saying, place their question onto the app, and a volunteer can then actually slide the question off and be connected to the person one-on-one, free of charge. And that is what we are all about. We are about connecting. And now with the use of technology and technology experts and NASDAQ, of course, and Salesforce, we are able to do that in very short time so that we can connect with our clients, which, our women who are calling in and asking interesting questions and questions that are so relevant to retirement, to purchasing a home, to starting a small business, to getting their mortgage or opening their investment accounts or dealing with the interest rate issues, or getting a divorce, and how that financially impacts them. And then through our 300 plus volunteers who we appreciate so much, as you know, Eric, and who we got to meet, many of which in person, thanks to Judy's Volunteer Summit a few weeks ago. It has been a fabulous journey for Savvy Ladies. It really has expanded the amount and the ability to help women across the country.
What I want to make sure that we've kind of touched around it, hit around it as far as the helpline, but I think it's something that offers such a unique value to women. Can we step back and just kind of understand or explain exactly what that free helpline, what those sessions are, when they get the chance to actually talk to financial professionals? And these are not just random people. These are CFPs, these are attorneys, these are CPAs. Judy, if you wouldn't mind just talk a little bit more specifically about how that process works if somebody needs help, because that's always one of those roadblocks that I hear a lot is I don't know who to talk to, or if I did know somebody, it's going to be too expensive, so I'm just not going to worry about it.
Yeah, no, what's really exciting is, and what I see is women are asking those questions. So when they do a Google search, how, free financial advice for women, or they might have a question around budgeting, financial debt, credit card debt, investing, and they punch it into Google, there's all this that comes up that are ads or sponsors. But then Savvy Ladies comes up, and Savvy Ladies is a nonprofit. And it puts us in a unique position that we are an unbiased organization, and we're not selling them our tools. We're giving them resources, free resources, and we're here to answer questions. So what's really positive and continues is that we outreach. So our organic growth, and I don't spend money on ads, but it's the organic growth because we're building trust with the community. So when they're looking for a question, punching it into Google or Bing, they're landing on Savvy Ladies because we've built a website that offers good free content. So once they're on the website, we offer free online courses that they can take at their own pace. But we also offer panel discussions, digging in and offering our expertise of our volunteers on certain sessions around family finances, divorce and money, health and money. So we're building our success. We're building content that is valuable to the audience and to the women who are looking for it. And then I like to say all roads lead to the helpline. So whenever a woman has a question, they can submit it at any time on the form. And they're picking a category. So we have around 12 categories. As a woman, as the client is self-selecting what they think is their large topic. Is it divorce? Is it career and money? Is it investing? Family finances is one of them. And then they will give us a long form. We give them 250 characters to write a big question. And that then flows into the app. And that's where our helpline volunteers can look at it 24/7 at their convenience. And the volunteers pull the question into their queue. That triggers a number of emails for the client and volunteer to get connected. We do ask the clients, how do you want to connect? So once we do ask them to verify their emails, which is common, and then we say, how do you want to speak with your volunteer? Do you want to speak via email, via phone, or via Zoom? So by putting the control in the hands of the client, that has really helped us increase our connection because again, it's the client telling us what she's most comfortable with. And that's what we're about, is building it to make it comfortable, building trust for each of the clients that come to us.
Well, I think one of the things that I found is so valuable, I think is so important, is the level of detail that you guys go into, even as on the professional side or the coaching client side, the verifying that, hey, yeah, this is a legitimate question. This is not, you're not just submitting it. It's going into a random inbox. And then for the professional side, knowing that, yeah, this has been verified. This person is really looking for guidance and looking for help to get their questions answered.
And we continue to improve upon that. So what's really exciting is we listen to the clients, we listen to the volunteers, so we can continue sort of building continuous improvement. So one of the new things on the plate that we're looking at is SMS. Clients have said to us, can't you text me? And yes, we would love to text, but it takes, technology, and you have to add that technology to the platform to capture everything. So we're in the process of looking at that, and it's very doable. It's just work behind the scenes that needs to get done.
Well, one of the, I had actually had I think it was my most recent coaching connection was, a lot of times I talk about, and I've done a number of episodes, and we focus on women within our practice as well. And one of the valuable things that we offer is that second party. So if you've lost a husband through divorce, or you've been widowed, and you no longer have that other person to talk about ideas with and talk about strategies with, okay, should we do this? Should I do that? That was actually one of her questions is, she'd done such an amazing job. She'd accumulated a good amount of retirement assets, but she lives in California, and she's thinking, okay, I got to think about cost of living wise. If I want to retire at some point, I need to know, should I stay where I'm at? Should I move to another lower cost living area? And those are the type of questions. These are really solid questions that these ladies are asking. And just understanding that, sometimes you just need that sounding board. Even if she had a pretty good idea of what she thought she wanted to do, but it was just that second opinion, second set of ears to help give her some thoughts and ideas about, hey, just run some what if scenarios and see what might make the most sense.
I love that, Eric, that people are using Savvy Ladies as a sounding board. I think that's really incredible, because the idea that we have these really great professionals who are skilled in the financial area, and that someone who maybe went through a transition, either a divorce or widowhood or other transitions, right? Maybe even a move from a different state. I mean, there's so many reasons, or loss of a job.
Yeah.
Right. Or starting a new job. I mean, any of those transitional type of events that happen every day, or maybe your kids actually have just gotten older, right? And now they've launched, and you want to start a different type of life for yourself. There's so many reasons that people come to us at Savvy Ladies, and to be able to have a great sounding board, and to be able to, and I'm going to emphasize this, it's free. I mean, where else can you go to get the 300 plus volunteers that we have who are educated in financial issues to get that type of sounding board? There's no other service that is offered as Savvy Ladies does.
And what's unique is that it's not a long-term engagement. So clients can come in, ask a question, and then they're welcome to come back for additional questions. And the beauty of having 300 plus volunteers is that they can get matched and connected with another volunteer who might have that expertise in that other category that they're asking. So if they have an investing question, they could get matched with an investment coach versus possibly someone in a different area who's focusing more on debt management. So I love that we're seeing a trend in younger women asking questions around saving for their future. So it's not just saving, it's investing. So putting that term and making that a very familiar, comfortable term for women to use is what we see as a game changer for women, is not just saving it, but how to make that money work harder for themselves and invest it for their futures. And I think that, especially when we say, you hear compound, but I love it when we see the younger women coming to us that are 18 to 25, early 30s, thinking about that, and actually thinking of, if when they're working, how to leverage their 401 even more so than just letting it sit there in sort of the designated, buckets that their office might put them in.
And I'm just going to add, at the Volunteer Summit, I think someone had shared that they actually had helped a client whose, I think, spouse had become deceased. And when they actually learned about the retirement account that their spouse had, what they learned was that the money was being deposited into the retirement account year after year, but it wasn't being deposited into an account and then invested. And so there was no compounding. There was no investment strategy, unfortunately. And this person now had that money available to be able to go out and build growth. And unfortunately, that growth wasn't built all those other years. But now, at least with the help of our volunteer, they had some ideas and some advice and some strategies of how to actually deal with that.
There's a question I wanted to ask. I didn't actually plan to ask this originally, but I think it really does fit here because I just did episode 50. That was my milestone 50th episode not long ago on the great wealth transfer and the significant amount of assets and inherited wealth that are going to be coming women's way in the next few years. It's already started, but it's going to be more and more. And where savvy ladies can actually fit into that, because you talked about it before about, you hear all the conversation about, when women are younger, they're told to, well, you got to save, you got to protect your money. Well, men are told to invest, you got to grow your money. And there's such a mindset shift between those two. And sometimes just finding the resources and, again, getting coaching, getting guidance. I think savvy ladies could play such a huge role in that area over the next several years.
I agree. And I love it when Lisa says, take control of your money. As she said, she watches what her money is doing every single day. But so many women do not. So I think
I wouldn't necessarily encourage that, by the way. Just say.
But some women,
especially in the last 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, exactly. But to understand where the money is. So instead of just sitting, as we heard in this unfortunate story, that the husband was putting in money every month into the Roth and thinking that it was compounding, but it wasn't investing. And sometimes what we're saying, it is the power of the ask. You have to continually ask. So if you're working with financial advisors, ask them, what is my money doing for me? What are my choices? Don't rely on them to put it in a place that's going to grow it for you. And that sort of goes to like finding the right advisor for yourself, taking the initiative and interviewing. So some of the things savvy ladies will do is we get questions about, I can't afford a financial advisor. So there is definitely resources we share of how to find one, how to interview for one. It is interviewing almost for a partner, like going on a date. You want to make sure you're comfortable with that financial advisor. Eric, you want to have a relationship and you want to be able to pick up the phone and ask them and ask the big questions about your money. I think it's really the big thing is you need to ask as the owner of your money, ask the questions. Don't assume it's happening for you.
Well, I think that comes with a level of comfortability. And I actually talked on that same episode about, there's in my opinion, a pretty big failure across the financial services world within the financial advisor space specifically about not making women feel comfortable enough to ask those questions. And I think that's such I think it's crazy that we have to talk about, there's a study in the McKinsey report that I referred to in the episode as well about, to keep the women's dollars, to earn more than women's dollars, you got to do this, this, and this. Like, what have you been doing for the last 50 plus years that now you got to feel like you got to change certain things? That tells you there's a problem right there.
I think that there's no question that there is a problem. And I think that women need to push to be included by their financial advisors, and financial advisors, if they want to keep the women, and we just talked about that transfer of wealth, if financial advisors want those clients, they need to include the women. And I think that women are often overlooked in terms of the meetings and decision making and giving the information, and that shouldn't happen. And women are going to have to push to do that. And frankly, I think that speaking to some of the savvy ladies, volunteers, will help them learn how to do that also, how to be able to make that push, how to be heard, how, as Judy would say, how to use the power of the ask. And one of those asks should be, I want to be included at the meetings. I want to be included at the table. I want to be included in the financial decisions. That is the power of the ask. Because at the end of the day, that is how they are going to get to that simply retirement stage that you talk about on your podcast.
Right. Why not? Because there's those two big statistics that I bring up quite a bit, whether it's a conversation with a client or doing on the podcast. That amazing statistic about 70% of women changing financial advisors within 12 months of losing their husband. And then the other one is that 80 to 90% of women will at some point be solely responsible for their financial circumstances. And it really comes down to education and resources. And I'm so glad to have you guys on here to share what Savvy Ladies can do as well.
And I think I think it's important that the financial institutions also understand that, right? Because when they send us volunteers, that helps them as well, because they are actually making that outreach to women. And women are going to hold a massive amount of money, to your point, in the next years. And so if they want those women as clients, they need to show that they are interested in being inclusive with women. And I think it's really important.
Absolutely.
And then also there are the rising new wealth. So there are the young career professionals that are coming, their first generation. So we're seeing a lot, many of the clients Savvy Ladies work with on the helpline are low, moderate income women, but they are first generation, and they're working, and they are beginning to earn the 6-figure salary. So they're saving now, and they want to know how to grow that wealth for their future generations. So they may not be inheriting, but they're building their wealth, and they want to pass it on. And how can they have enough for themselves and pass it on to the next generation? So I think there's both cases of we're seeing both, and we're educating both very similarly of how they can take control and build that wealth, be it first time wealth or they're inheriting and coming into that wealth.
Awesome. Well, I know we've kind of touched on this, but I definitely want to make sure this is crystal clear as to how people can actually utilize Savvy Ladies resources. So anybody that might be listening, any women that might be listening, how can they access the help? And also you may be touching on anybody that might want to volunteer, how they can get involved as well.
Well, the Savvy Ladies website is savvyladies.org. It's the first place to come. So come there first, and there is the free financial helpline, Get Help. So it's right there on the homepage, but it's the free financial helpline for women by Savvy Ladies. So please visit the page. You can submit your question. There is a form on the page that will put you through, and you submit your information. It's probably a 3 to 4 minute for you to submit your question. So what is that question you have? It could just write it in from your head and input your question, and we ask you to verify your email. So you'll get an email confirmation, and that puts you through to being connected with a volunteer. Typically, we're seeing that is around a 5-day connection process, because we are getting so many questions at the moment. So volunteers, yes, if you are interested in volunteering and assisting, the key to what is so wonderful is, Eric, it's easy. We've made it accessible for you. You can download it, especially for the volunteers, the app on your phone, and you can answer everything on your phone as a volunteer. So it makes it very easy for volunteers to pick up at any time that is convenient for them and get matched. The volunteers pull in the question and then schedule the appointment that works on a mutually convenient time for the client and volunteer.
Perfect. This has been so amazing. Before we wrap up, I was almost there, but I did want to make sure I asked one last question. I'll start with Lisa. But if there was just one piece of advice you would give women at this point, what would that be?
Pay attention. You need to pay attention to your finances. Don't leave it to someone else. Make sure that you know what is going on around you in terms of your finances. That's the most important thing, because knowledge is power.
Absolutely. Judy?
You know what? I've seen so many women and friends and peers step out of the workforce when they're raising their children, and they don't think they can balance both. And then they are concerned, what happens when I turn 50 and my kids are off to college? I never stopped working, and there was a reason behind that. My mom did, and I thought that was a terrible thing, and she got stuck, and I never wanted to get stuck. So myself and all my siblings, we've worked through it, and we've risen. And I think you can find your groove. And I would say always work. Working is so important. So however a woman makes that happen, if they go entrepreneur, they juggle it, and you can figure it out. But stopping working is a setback. And I think there are absolutely ways women can make it work. And so I would say, keep working.
Perfect. Well, Judy and Lisa, thank you both so much for sharing your time, the amazing work that Savvy Ladies is doing. To our listeners, if you're facing a financial question, you want to learn, you even want to give back, please visit their website at www.savvyladies.org. Their resources are free, judgment-free, created to help women like you gain clarity and confidence. As always, if you're ready to take the next step in your own retirement journey, you can visit our website at blakewealthmanagement.com and learn more about our Simply Retirement Roadmap process. Until next time, please remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It's the start of a new journey.
That's it for today's episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. We hope you found our insights and advice helpful in planning for a fulfilling retirement. Don't forget to take action on what you've learned today. Visit our website at blakewealthmanagement.com to learn more about our firm and review our Simply Retirement Roadmap process to get you on the right path to the retirement you deserve. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to helping you achieve your retirement goals. Remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey. So embrace it and make the most of it. Until next time, take care. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security, or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Blake Wealth Management. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Blake Wealth Management or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor, Blake Wealth Management, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.